Welcome, Robert Matarazzo. It's so good to see you.
You too.
What's happening?
I'm so excited.
I know. Happy quarantine.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I guess we're all turning it around to, at first it was like, oh, quarantine. Now I think at this point we're all just like, hey, it's quarantine. Like,
I know. Although we were just saying that I still haven't gotten unemployment, and I don't know how long. Nobody, right? I think what everyone is sort of starting to say is that, yeah, they kind of technically passed this law for independent contractors, but that actually there isn't any independent contractor that any of us can name that actually has gotten money.
I honest to God, yeah. I mean, 1099ers, I have heard the same thing.
I keep getting sort of like messages or things in the mail that say, okay, you're eligible. All you have to do is this. And then I go and do it. And then I get another message saying, oh no, unfortunately, that's not going to work. And you're like, okay, well, what do I have to do? We'll do this. And then you go and do it. And then they go, oh, sorry, you have to speak to somebody, but nobody can speak to you. So.
Exactly. Cassidy, I actually got a debit card in the mail.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good sign.
I got a debit card and I was like, oh, well, this is cool. Great. And then it says you have to activate it. And I'm like, okay, great. And I dial the 800 number and I activate it. And then it says to check your balance, press 1. So I pressed 1 and it said 0.
So then you have to go and you have to claim them on the website. But when you go and do that, it'll tell you can't.
Honest to God, every single week since I started, which was 4 weeks ago, I applied. I was immediately denied, but they were nice enough to put a message in the denial that said, if you're a 1099 worker, like if you're a gig worker, like whatever, more than likely you're going to be denied. We're waiting. The state is waiting for word from the Fed to tell us how to divvy up this money. So I thought, oh, all right, cool. A 3 days later, I got another message. I got an email, and it said, okay, you've got to reapply now, and this is the way you need to answer specific questions. So their system is obviously geared to be cheated. Like if you lie in a certain way or answer the questions the right way, then you're going to be okay. And I'm like, okay, great. So I answered the questions the way that it was, and said, please give us 24 hours. I gave him 24 hours. Sure enough, I got an email the next day. You've been approved. Here's the thing. I swear to you, it said, I should show it to you. It says, you've been approved, and here is your amount for your weekly benefit.
Great.
0.
Oh my
God. No, 0.
This is what it did. No, it did this to me first too. I got the 0, but then then I got a letter saying you can do it. All you have to do is you have to go on and you have to click claim. So I just feel like we're getting the runaround. Let me just say one thing really quick. Happy hour. Cheers to everybody.
Woohoo! I drank my coffee already.
I was going to say, you don't drink, which is good, which is a beautiful thing.
I drank my coffee already.
But I'm saying cheers. I want to just sort of give you a formal introduction. This is Robert Matarazzo.
Hello.
He is an old friend and a singer-songwriter and somebody that I've known for so long and through like many incarnations of our careers. And so talented you are, the most amazing voice. But I remember meeting you so many years ago when I was just starting out in my band. And I would love to talk to you today about a bunch of things. I want to catch up and I want to see how you're doing because we were trying to talk about the craziness with unemployment and just what it's like right now to be a gig worker and to be somebody who has absolutely no idea how they're ever going to earn money again. And not that that's terrifying or anything, seriously.
Right.
Like, not that that's like keeping me up at this point. Like, I was fine. I keep saying this. I say this in every podcast. I was fine. I was like, at first I was like, it's cool. We're going to be all right. Like, we'll take some time off. Maybe I'll write some songs. I started the podcast. I'm doing all kinds of things. I'll cook dinners. It'll be great. And now we're almost 3 months in and I'm starting to freak.
I know. Yeah. It's, not to take anything away from anyone. And there's zillions of people out there with the same thing, but I have the added worry in my head. I got 2 little ones at home with me. I've got an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old that, we split time, their mom and myself. but I mean, when they're here with me, they're here with me, and it's my responsibility to sort of do and take care of. And
Oh my God.
it's so nerve-wracking. So thank God for being able to figure out the live, uh, streaming aspect of this. It's at the very least, I mean, who knows what my landlord's going to say at the end of this, but still, my at least I'm keeping the kids fed and myself. I'm keeping myself fat, to tell you the truth. That's the other part of it. That's
Listen, I'm not going to fit outside of my door in about 5 minutes. It's going to be really bad. They're going to have to shoehorn me out of here.
I can't even. Yeah, remember that guy? What was his name? Something Ernie Hudson. No, he's the actor. It's some guy Hudson. He was like the heaviest guy in the world. They had to pull him out of the house in a crane. You're gonna have to cut a hole in my window, and
I'm serious. It's going to be like piano movers are going to have to come here and roll me the fuck out. So I was going to say to you a couple of things. Like, first of all, I know, because the kid thing, like I've been thinking a lot about the kid thing, for many reasons. Obviously, for parents who are not getting any money, and how are you supposed to do that? The other thing is having kids at home at the moment, and not only the bandwidth, I think, that you probably need just to have them around all of the time, the teaching kind of aspect of all of it, and then also what you tell them about this, and how much of it do you spare them, and how much of it do you have to just be real about because you're trying to keep them safe. It's like, how do you do this? Like, you have to know that this will impact them
the rest of their lives.
Without a doubt. So I'm curious, like, how have you been handling that?
Well, so I mean, we had a little bit of a moment with Charlotte this morning. When we woke up, I woke up to an email from her teacher saying that, as of yesterday, Governor Murphy canceled the rest of the year for school. So there's no school. So, I had to sit Charlotte down this morning and just say to her, listen, honey, I know that every day, she would say to me, she would say to me every day, like, oh, I miss all my friends. I can't wait to get back to see Mrs. Jackson, and, like whatever. And she's had a couple of moments where she's gotten a little weepy about that. And then today, this morning, I said, well, they've decided that you're not going to go back to school.
Oh my God.
That's going to be the end of the year. It's just going to come, and you're not going to go back to school. So you won't be in class with your class this year. You'll be going back in September. She was like, and I could see it. Like, I could see it registering, and I could see it was beginning to sort of like hurt her. I said, but she said, what? I said, well, you're getting out of school a week early. Your school year is going to end June 18th instead of, June 27th. She went, oh, really?
You just have to look on the bright side. And how do you explain what's happening? I mean, what do you say?
So, this is what I've told her. And even Jack, I mean, he's 4, certain things he can really sort of grasp, and then other things. I mean, I think that this thing's a little bit out of his sort of realm of truly understanding, you know what I mean? But Charlotte, sure. I've said to her, honey, she'll ask, she'll say, like, so like, how come, like, why can't we go into the store? Why do you and mommy have to go to shop right by yourself? Like, why can't? And I say, well, listen, here's the thing, okay? There's a really ugly, I said, every year we take you to the doctor, which you hate, and you have to get that flu shot. She's like, yeah, I don't like it. I said, okay, so it's the same thing. It's a virus like that. It's a really, really bad version of it, and it makes people really, really sick. And some people who are already kind of sick or a little bit weak, like whatever, can get it, and they can die. I said, so what we're trying to do as a society is we're trying to make sure that I don't give it to you, and then you give it to Jack, and then Jack gives it to mommy. I said, you could see how that could happen. And she was like, yeah. I'm like, so what we're trying to do is we're just trying to keep everybody kind of away from each other for a little while. And then eventually that flu bug won't have anywhere to go.
Right.
And it'll eventually just stop, and then everybody will be okay. And she was like, all right. So she kind of gets that aspect of it. I think that's all she needs to know.
No, totally. And I love that there's like a happy ending, like, and then we'll all be fine, you know, 'cause
always,
what else are you gonna say?
always. Yeah,
Yeah.
always. You know,
Yeah.
I immediately, the first thing that I did, I had a conversation with their mom, and I said, you know, can we agree that we are going to keep them away from any conversation, you know, adult to adult, or keep them away
Scary.
from the news, the thing, like whatever, anything. She was like, you know, I agree,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
guys have a good relationship, I know, and you guys agree about pretty with the kid when it comes
Yeah.
to the kids, and it's so good. And that's
So
got
the
to be
kids are,
tricky. But I was going
yeah.
to say, like, what made me think of this is, and it made me sort of giggle as you were talking. I don't know if you would even have a funny answer to this, but I'm just curious. It's like the generation of kids today, like we really try to spare them from shit. Like, what would your parents have said? My
Oh,
parents would.
my parents would have said, "Don't go out of the house, you'll die." Like that would have been my.
I was thinking, my parents would have scared the living shit. Don't open the door! Don't open the door!
Shut the door! Shut the door! You're gonna die. Are you crazy? Yeah, that would have been my parents for
I
sure.
swear to God, my parents would have been like, you're gonna, you're gonna end up, you can't breathe, you're gonna drown in your own mucus. That's what my father would have said to me. I would have been 7, like, I'm gonna drown in my own mucus.
And I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I'm still on the fence about which way is better.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I have this conversation. I talk about this shit all the time, especially on this show. I go into like the generation talk, right? And I make myself sound like I'm Methuselah, like I'm so old. But there has been quite, I feel, a jump like from us to the like now. And I don't mean kids necessarily now, but like even like 20 somethings right now who are going through this, the way they see the world versus the way we saw the world. And there's so many reasons. Technology is just maybe like the main one, but it's to your point, we were spared nothing. And I just feel like we're a little bit tougher in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. We have a strong, how can I put this? We have a stronger social immune system than, like, as Gen Xers, we have a stronger social immune system than millennials or even Gen Y. You know, this whole sort of, I don't want to step on anyone's toes, and I don't want to be, you know, like whatever. But
feel free.
So this sort of coddling of children really sort of began with Gen Y, which were the generation kind of like after us, and then millennials felt the full impact of that helicopter parenting, and
everybody gets a medal.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I'm so not about that. I'll be totally honest with you. I do want to shelter my kids from obvious hurtful things.
Of course. And that's what I'm saying. I think in this situation, we probably could have used a little bit of coddling. We wouldn't have gotten it. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's something humorous about that. But no, I'm with you. I don't have kids. But if I did have kids, I would think to myself, there are so many things that I wouldn't share with them. It's just not necessary to treat them like they're adults before they are. And I just think that a lot of us were, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, I can remember, I harken back now to 1984, 83 or 84. You were in Sparta at the time, right?
I was, yeah.
So you Sussex County was kind of spared. Do you remember the flood of 84? Like, do you remember the Great Flood?
No.
All right, so
I do remember the cocaine problem, though. There was a big cocaine problem in the 80s in New Jersey, man.
Yeah, I was the reason for it. But anyway,
we'll get into that. We'll get into that. More on that later. Yeah.
I was the reason for it. So so in 84, there was a massive flood. I grew up in Pequannock, Pompton Plains, in that area.
Okay, not far. Down 23.
Exactly. So the Pequannock Valley, it's kind of like low-lying areas. And so Pequannock is divided into two sort of separate communities. There's Pequannock Township, which is the whole, but then there's Pequannock, and then the other side of that is Pompton Plains, right?
Right.
But we're all together. The Pequannock Police Department is in Pompton Plains. The Pequannock Township High School is actually in Pompton Plains, but anyway. So there's one part of Pompton Plains which is next to the Pequannock River. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of it's a low-lying area, and 23 kind of like runs along the back side of it.
Yeah.
And there was this massive storm. This is a really long story to kick this punchline, but anyway, and it's just a true story. It flooded, and I had friends of mine that I went to high school with. This is no joke. That had 5 feet of water on the second floor of their house.
Oh my God, dude!
This one area called the Village, which is probably the lowest and the closest to the Pequannock River and the lowest lying area in Pompton Plains. The water had nowhere to go, and it wiped out this entire neighborhood. I'm talking 300-400 homes underwater, right?
Oh my God.
Here's the punchline to this is like how do we spare our kids, and how were we spoken to? We woke up the next morning. My father was very ill at the time. He was dying at the time. But he still was the immigrant bastard he was. My father was the greatest. But we started hearing reports. No internet back then. There was no cell phones. There was no nothing, like whatever. People are calling, like whatever. And my mom got off the phone with her neighbor, and she said, apparently the village is completely out underwater. Now I immediately knew, like, wow, I got this friend there, I got that friend there, I got that friend there, like whatever. And my father said, what the hell happened? He said, well, the river came up, and apparently nobody had any time really to get anything. They just like evacuated everybody, but it came up so quickly, a lot of people are stuck. And my father looked at me and he goes, Jesus, everybody in there's probably dead.
Without a doubt. That's like exactly something my father would have said. Without a doubt. They better get them out of there before they start to stink. That's what my father would say.
I'm thinking like all of my friends that I know live down there. I'm like, wait, what?
And you're
like,
traumatized.
Yeah, they're fine.
I can remember being a kid and being in school, like, it's amazing the shit that scares you, right? Like, I can remember being in school, and because like in 1983, I wasn't really old enough to care like about anything in terms of like outside of my tiny little world, and like, I didn't watch the news. I didn't know any, but I will tell you, in my hometown, there was a lot of talk of like, the end of the world. They used to talk about that a lot. And I think that they probably still do. And maybe I'm just not like privy to it, but I remember kids being like, on Wednesday at 12 o'clock, it's supposed to be the end of the world, and be like, oh my God, Wednesday at 12 o'clock, it's going to be the end of the world. And I would be so scared.
I'm going to tell you why you went through that. I don't know whether or not this is a memory you've suppressed or not, or you just didn't realize that it filtered down through sort of like urban legend, whatever. But the reason that specific time that whole thing happened was that movie that was made about Nostradamus.
Oh my God.
HBO did HBO did that movie about Nostradamus, and it was Orson Welles was the narrator of the thing. That movie scared the shit out of me.
I remember that. Everybody talked about Nostradamus, and everybody was watching those remember those videos? What was it called? Where everybody was getting like, they would show you car accidents. Faces of Death. Faces of Death. Do you remember Faces of Death? I was a
macabre kind of little kid.
They were passing that shit around like crazy.
People eating the monkey brain.
I couldn't watch that. I'm still like, listen, I love a good murder mystery, but the minute you show me the body, I'm out. Like, I cannot do it. I'm not interested in any of that shit. Yeah, I'm not a blood and guts kind of gal, man. That shit.
Not my thing. Yeah.
Out.
Yeah.
So funny. So yeah, you grew up in that area. I grew up in Sparta, so it wasn't too far away from each other. But the thing that's so interesting, I want to talk to you about this. You don't have to if you don't want to, but when you were a kid, you were signed by Ahmet Ertegun. Mm-hmm. And for people who don't know who Ahmet Ertegun is just this legend A&R guy who was responsible for some of the greatest music of our time, but more like, like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And he was like Clive Davis. And I got to meet Ahmet as well right before he passed away. He came in and saw kind of our audition for the label. And we had already been signed, really, Jason, but Jason wanted Ahmet to see us, and Ahmet came in and watched us sing in the office. And so that was my only dealings with him. And he was such an old man at that point. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about that. That is just such an interesting, because I want to sort of parlay it too into like being a musician now too, and the way we earn our money and how you can have longevity as somebody who's like always done it and continues to do it and what that looks like. But tell this story about Ahmed, if you don't mind.
So, okay. So, I, in 1988, it's going back. So 1988, I came out of one of the biggest cover bands in New Jersey at the time. This is sort of pre, and then at the very beginning of sort of like the Nerds kind of run. They had this, so this was before the Nerds, and then kind of like right as they began sort of percolate and kind of bubble up.
Okay.
And I
what were they called? Do you mind saying?
More and more. What was what?
The band called.
Oh, the band was called Spender.
Okay. There's Jersey people that listen to this.
And
so I'm really excited.
Yeah. So we had different like the guys in the band. Listen, these are guys that I love as my brothers today. I mean, they're still great. They're my core sort of friends. You know, guys that I be able to live my life without them. Like, you know what I'm saying? So this is awesome. Like, this is when we raised each other on the road. I started in that band when I was 13 years old, started in that band.
Wow.
So, but they were a little bit older than me. And so they, we kept the band together through their sort of, and God bless them, through their college years. These guys began to sort of experience like their adult getting jobs and getting good jobs. And then it suddenly became, it was more like my career, the thing that I had set my path on from the time I was a kid, sort of became everyone else's kind of like hobby. And I don't mean the mean way, like towards them.
No,
it just means that my source of income, my direction in life had now become, it had gone from 5 nights a week down to like just the weekend, and then suddenly it was every other weekend. Because I mean, these guys were holding down regular 9-to-5 jobs,
Right.
Some of them getting married, and
of course, so, yeah, people's lives take different directions, and not all of us decide to do it full time. It's like very few of us
absolutely.
do. Yeah,
very few of us do and can. You know what I mean? So, and I don't mean that in a we're so good we can. I mean, we're lucky that we can.
Totally. So, yeah.
So I decided that I wanted to go more in the original sort of music direction. I borrowed a bunch of money from my mother, literally at the time. It was like 10 grand at the time.
Wow.
Now, keep in mind now my mother is now a widower, with 4 kids, 2 of them in college.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, I borrowed a shit ton of money from my mom, and I went into, I just started calling random studios, trying to get a feel for like, where could I possibly sort of like record whatever. And I had this little like 4-track demo thing that I had done at home, and I found it literally in the phone book. I found the House of Music. I mean, of all places for me to find in a phone book. House of Music, legendary recording studio right in West Orange, New Jersey.
Right. So let me ask you something though. These songs that you were writing, had you been writing the whole time? Were you always somebody who wrote, or was it all of a sudden like, I'm just going to try to, like, what were you influenced by? I'm just curious.
So I was raised on, like a lot of us, I was raised on amazing AM pop radio.
Yes.
And if you ask me, it was the best education if I had been turned on to sort of FM rock radio, I think that my career and my writing would have gone a completely different way.
I totally know what you mean.
Steely Dan. I mean, come on, dude. They were playing Steely Dan records and Billy Joel records, but I mean, they were also playing the greatest sugar pop like Bread and Pilot.
Ambrosia.
Ambrosia,
Little River Band.
Little River Band. I mean, of course, you know what I'm saying?
Good
I mean,
shit.
of course. I mean, that's the melodies and the. So I mean, that's really sort of like where I cut my teeth as far as like writing went. I was relating that. That's the thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
I learned to write a 3-minute song before I realized it was important to write a 3-minute song.
That's right. Like
You
you
know what I mean?
understood the form and the bridge and the thing. Like you always knew that that was how you did it.
Get in and get out, man. I mean, you know what I mean? If I can't
Don't
say
bore
3
us.
minutes or less, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
what's the point? Like, you mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Didn't Quincy Jones said, "Don't bore us, bring us to the chorus."
Don't bore us, bring us to the chorus. Exactly right. That's Hughes. I mean, that's, you know, he's, yeah. It's a beautiful statement. I mean, it really is. You know what I mean? There's no two better guys that ever did it better than Lennon and McCartney. I mean, you know.
No, I just, for me, I feel like
you were to listen to some
melodies are lost anymore. Melodies. I feel like I miss melodies.
I mean, I'll tell you what I miss is, it's not so much missing of the melody, it's the repetitiveness. It seems like everything has gone away about writing. It's just about the chorus now, and it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, like there's so much, there's no journey, there's no story, and more than anything, you know, because, you know, I know, we both know, but I have been writing in these rooms with these types of writers. You know, I did it for years in Los Angeles, and I don't really do it anymore because it's just, for me, it was fun. I got some songs on some things. Now, I just found it very formulaic. But what they'll do is they'll take the hook that they think is a hook from a verse, they'll take the hook that they think is a hook from a bridge, and then they'll take the hook for the chorus, and that's it. You're lucky if it's 3 parts. It's usually just everything has to be a hook, and it's glued together, and it's repeated until your eyes bleed, and it has to be so simple, and so it has to be like, it has to literally be an M&M. It can't be a sandwich, you know, because people can't digest the sandwich. Like, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's so irritating. Yeah. So you grew up on the same shit that I did. And so you started writing stuff. And what's interesting is like that whole crew over there at the time at A&M and at Atlantic, they loved songs still. They were still song people. Even Jason, I think, carried on that legacy. He's a song guy.
But you know that Jason was groomed by Amit.
Of course.
Personally, like,
no, totally. Amit, I know that.
Amit selected Jason as his heir apparent. I mean, and he gave him an imprint. I mean, he gave him lava. You know what I mean? So
you could see Jason really, really admired him and really treated him like he was his mentor, but like in the most respectful, lovely way. And it was such an honor that he wanted us to sing for him. And you could tell it was his way of being like, look, Dad, look what I did, you know?
You bet. You better believe it. Absolutely. And you know, it's really funny. That's the type of, I was Amit's pet project for 3 years.
I know. And you worked very closely with him. So did he come see you or did somebody give him something?
Oh yeah, right. So let's go back to you and I are going to be doing this all afternoon. Splitting off into so many different directions.
That is the point.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I came across. I apologize. I'm sorry. Okay. I came across the House of Music, which is West Orange, this legendary recording studio, and I just went there. What do I know? I was 19. I was a 19-year-old kid. I didn't know. I just went to I found the address and I just said, Mom, I'm just going to go there.
And you had the money. Thank God.
Pull into this. Well, yeah.
Well, let's be honest, right? Money buys you access. You don't even realize how it does that, but you were put at a higher level of recording studio because you had the cash. And it's a beautiful thing that your mom did. Yeah. Incredible.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I literally went there. I parked the car. I got out of the car and I walked up to the door and I literally opened the door of the studio and somebody turned their head and said, "Hi, who are you?" And I said, "Oh, hi, my name is Rob. I just wanted to see whether or not I might be able to do some recording here." And the guy was like, he was an engineer. turned out to be a guy, Nelson, that I knew for years and years and years. He's like, well, that's really kind of like not how it works. And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know, like, whatever. And this really, really very kind woman kind of came around the corner. It turns out it's this woman, Irene Conrad, who was the owner, and her husband, Charlie, owned the House of Music. And she said, that's okay, Nelson, let me talk to him. And she said,
Wow.
do you mind? Let's go outside. So we went outside. And she said, I didn't, she's like, I just have you kind of like wandering around. We have Kool and the Gang is recording in there right now. And she said in Studio B and in Studio A, Cinderella are cut a new record.
Yes!
So, I mean, this is like, I was like, oh shit, I think I know. I think this is where I want to be.
Wow.
So I explained my situation and I said, I have 3 songs that I want to record and I want to have them professional. Yeah, I want to have them professionally recorded. And I found you. She's like, yeah, find us. Like, did somebody tell you? Like, no, I literally found a phone number in the phone book. And she was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting.
That's
she said, well, let me talk it over with husband. And she said, I didn't even know what words meant. I had no idea what these words meant. She said, you need just an engineer, or do you have somebody that's producing? And I'm like, what? I don't even, I didn't even know what that meant. She was like, well, an engineer is somebody that will work all of the gear and will be able to record you. And then, there's a producer that you could work with who kind of guides the whole session, like whatever. And I'm like, I guess I need a producer. She was like, okay. She's like, all right, fine. Well, she hooks me up with this guy by the name of John Rollo.
Okay.
Who had done a lot of he was a great engineer. Okay. He wasn't the greatest producer, but he was a killer engineer.
Right.
And he had worked on a lot of the Kinks records, and he had worked on Clapton records, and he was just like this guy was a big deal in the.
But not to interrupt you, but like honestly, don't you think a lot of times that the engineer is the guy anyway? Because he's getting all the sounds. There's a lot of these producers who use these engineers and they use them over and over and over again. It's almost like the DP, like on a film, right? Like the guy who sees it, and the guy who finds the shot, and the guy who finds the light, and the guy who gets the sounds, and the guy who sort of like can make the vibe of the album, a lot of times is the guy you want anyway.
You bet.
Right?
You bet. So I got introduced to John. He listened to my little shitty 4-track, my Tascam Porta 1 little 4-track cassette thing that I had made, and he loved it. He said, wow, I think there's really something here. Let's record these songs and we should try and shop them around. And I was like, what? And he's like, we'll shop a deal. And I'm like, I don't know what does that mean?
Me too. I'm wondering like now though, like I'm wondering what they're all saying in the back, and they're like, holy shit, this kid is so good. We better let's do it. Let's try to shop. Let's bring him to so-and-so. Like you probably have no idea, but they're saying all of that. It's amazing.
So I don't have that idea. I don't have that idea at the time, but in retrospect,
of course,
that particular person that I'm discussing tried to have me sign a contract with him.
Of course.
That not only locked me into points on any record with a record deal, but also gave up a portion of my publishing. So it turned out, yes, he must have.
Every guy that I worked with, every producer that I worked with, whether it was when I was solo, before I joined the band, after the band, during the band, whatever. And they all did that. And I will say that, I don't know if this happened to you, but like, first of all, I feel like artists should be aware of that fact, that like, you're going to be young and excited, and you're going to want to make your first album. People are going to want you to sign shit, and you should really be careful what you sign, and that you don't have to. And that you should really try, because I never asked anybody, because I never really had anybody to ask. But I think what it did for me in a weird way is I left the music business so mistrusting, I feel like, because I just felt like in hindsight, everybody was on the take. And in hindsight, nobody really had my best interest. And that doesn't mean that nobody cared about me. I'm not trying to say it, because there were people that cared about me. I know that there were people who cared what happened to me ultimately, of course. Mm-hmm. But those intricacies of like really protecting somebody and like really making sure that you are not getting screwed, or that you have what you need, or that you're going to be able to move on, and to facilitate those things in a really kind of altruistic way. Like the only people that really get that are the people whose parents manage them, I feel like the Beyoncés and the Taylor Swifts, you know what I mean? Justin Timberlake, like all those kids had their parents out with them, and their parents negotiated and watched everything and protected them, and I feel like a lot of those kids did well because of it, and good for them. But anyway, I digress. But I was just saying, like, so you look in hindsight and you see it's like, they want to work with you. They want to maybe sign you to a production company, and then they're going to shop it. And then basically, because I know artists, very famous artists who I won't name, but I know very famous artists who are contractually obligated after like 10, 15 years of their like very successful career to still make records with the same producer because they signed them when they were kids.
You bet.
Like Kesha. Kesha is an example of somebody I don't know personally, but it's a public example. But I know private examples of that too that aren't in the press. Like there's a lot of those.
It's a sin to a girl like that, man. She's a beast of a singer, man. That girl can sing, dude.
I know she can, man.
Regardless of what you think about.
Listen, I don't have shit to say.
That girl's a singer.
Yeah, and the music business is not the music business that I like am in love with anymore anyway, right? Like it's not like, and almost like I look at it as a completely separate thing now. It's not the thing that I wanted to do so much, and like wanted to be a part of so much, and was like so influenced by, and so it isn't. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just, I don't have the same kind of like I used to get competitive. Like I would see somebody doing something, not in a bad, like I didn't want them to be successful, but that like, I want to be that good, and I want to do something that makes people feel like that. And and I don't get that feeling anymore really so much, Tedeschi Trucks makes me feel like that for sure. Tedeschi Trucks makes me feel like that. Lucinda still makes me feel like that. Shelby Lynn's new shit is like so good. So yeah.
I meant to ask you actually, do you know this girl? I don't want to mess her name up. I should look it up, but so her name is Rachel Yama.
Yes.
Something, Rachel Yama.
Yes. I don't know her name, but I know I've heard of her.
I haven't been moved by an artist like this in a long time. I
love that.
I'll
check it out.
You want to know why I love her so much?
Somebody may have sent me something of her.
That's actually not fair to say that I love her so much because she's not that. She reminds me of Fiona Apple. And if anybody can make me say those words that they remind me of Fiona Apple, then we're on to something unbelievable.
She was amazing. And this is what I'm trying to explain to people, right? Like when we came up, and let's just listen, the male artists, for some reason, they get to sort of endure and do kind of, but like with the female artists, it's very important what's popular, because whatever's popular, it's true with male artists also, but not to the same degree. Who's popular in terms of female artists really dictates the way all other female artists are allowed to do their thing. And
that's the box, you believe it.
Ooh, and so when we were coming up, it was Fiona Apple, it was Sarah McLachlan, it was PJ Harvey, it was Tori Amos, it was all, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. It was bands like, who was that great? Veruca Salt, right? It was bands like it was just cooler, man. Like the girls, and it kind of ran because you also had Jewel, and it ran the gamut in terms of like the kind of music. And you had people who were maybe like, but we had like, instead of having, and I don't mean any disrespect, all right? I really don't. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not apologizing for how I feel. Like instead of Lizzo, we had Janet Jackson.
You bet.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like we had
Big difference.
Janet. Like after you've had after you've had Whitney, it's really hard for me to be psyched about anybody else's. Like, I'm sorry. Like I came up at a time where like everybody was like amazing and the first of their kind or so unique and like just trailblazing, but also just so authentic. And like there was pop. We know that Whitney was sort of put together a little bit of a creation of Clive, right? But it didn't change her talent. It didn't change her ability. But like you had that like all the way down to like you were doing, I don't mean down, but different genre, like Indigo Girls. And then Ani DeFranco shows up. And then like, so nowadays it's like, I just look at what's happening and I'm just kind of, I just don't see... other than in that sort of Lucinda, Shelby Lynn lane, like, but I'm just hoping that people are paying attention to that stuff because it's so important and it's so good. And like Tedeschi Trucks, Susan Tedeschi, she's another one, like keeping it real, singing her ass off, writing great songs. You know what I mean? Just
sing a little bit.
What?
I said she can sing a little bit.
Ooh. She makes me want to like.
Listen, when you got a guy like Derek Trucks,
she makes me want to throw something. You got a guy
like Derek Trucks standing next to you.
I was lucky enough to share the stage with him for an entire tour. He would come and sit in with us every night. He would sit in with us every night for our slot. So we toured when he was playing with the Almonds. When we toured with the Almonds, he would come on with O'Teal, and Warren would come on, and Derek Trucks, and they would play in our set. And it was like a masterclass every night. It was the most unbelievable. Like, I just have these awesome kind of memories of what I did that I just feel like, I don't know, could that be recreated right now? Like, I don't know if it could. And I just like doing my thing. I just like doing my music. But at the time when you got sort of picked up, you had an Amit Ertegun and you had a Jason Flom, and these guys were still into songs. So tell me how they got their hands on your stuff.
So I go into the studio. I record this 3-song demo that was going to be shopped. I didn't even know what the fuck that meant, but and the producer John, happened to get a phone call from a woman who he hadn't spoken to in over a year, and she said, "Hey, John, it's Janice. I have room on my roster. I'm looking for a new artist or artists. Are you working with anyone?" He said, "No, as a matter of fact, I'm working with guys. Let me send you the tapes." So he messengered. What's the word?
That's about right. Everybody knows what you mean. Yeah, everybody knows what you mean.
It's called the messenger. And measured it, and they picked it up and they brought it to her. So I'm going to give you a timeline. The dates are not exact, but I'm going to give you a timeline just so you get the idea of what this was like for me. On a Monday, he gets the phone call. On a Tuesday, the messenger comes to the studio and picks up the tapes. On Tuesday night, she gets the tape on a Tuesday afternoon. On Tuesday night, she calls Amit Ertegun on the phone because they were very, very tight, very closely related.
Wow.
She calls Amit on Tuesday night and says, "I have got a guy you need to hear." And he said, "Play it for me." And she said, "Okay." She played it for him over the phone.
Oh my God.
He said, "Have this guy in my office tomorrow morning."
Oh my God.
I couldn't go on the Wednesday. Again, I'm just making these days of the week up. It could have been any of these days, whatever.
Right.
But on Thursday morning, I was sitting, I didn't even know who the fucking guy was. I was sitting in Amit Ertegun's office with my mother.
That is amazing.
I'm sitting in Amit Ertegun's office, and he said to me, "Hey, man, this stuff is just really great. Like, we really love it." That gruff, awesome voice that he had. it's really, really great. And then he just like looked at me. He could see in my eyes I wasn't getting it.
Oh
And
my
he looked at
God.
me and he said, listen, I want you to understand something. I want to sign you up. That's the way that's old school record guy language. I want to sign you up. Was the what I want to sign you up. He said, I want to sign you up to the label. Like I want to think. And I said, you like a record deal? Like a record? Yeah, that's what I want to do. I'm going to so that was a Thursday. On the following Monday, okay, on Friday, the reason why I didn't sign with the label on Friday was I had to find an entertainment lawyer. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
So
had to get a lawyer too. That was great.
Again, I went to the phone book. And I wound up calling a guy by the name of Stu Silfen, who was my attorney for 20 years.
Oh my God.
Stu Silfen is one of the biggest entertainment attorneys, like music entertainment attorneys in the fucking world.
Wow.
And I called, and the only reason why I got past reception on the phone was I said, listen, I need an entertainment lawyer because I think I'm going to sign a record with Atlantic Records and I need help. It was the only reason why literally I wound up getting to his daughter's desk, Stu's daughter. I got to her desk, picked up the phone, we talked about it. She said, Robert, okay, that's totally fine. Can you have Atlantic send us the contract and we'll go over it. On Monday morning, I'm sitting in Silfen's office and he's flipping through the contract. Nice to meet you. How are you? I'm good. Okay. He's flipping through the contract. He goes, Robert, let me just apologize. He said, I don't recognize your name. He said, like, who are you? Like, and I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, like, what band were you in? And I said, I was in a band called Spender, my fucking cover band, right? I'm like, I was in a band called Spender. He goes, who were you signed? I said, we weren't signed. I'm talking about a cover band. Like I played in a cover band. He goes, wait a minute. He goes, are you telling me that this is your first deal?
Oh
and I said, yeah. He said, well, let me tell you something. He said, somebody likes you because this is the best first draft of a contract I think I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
And he said, and I will tell you, am I your attorney? He said, yeah. I said, yeah, you're my attorney. He said, as your attorney, I advise you to sign this contract.
Huh.
And I said, oh, okay. And I went there. I went to Atlantic Records on Monday afternoon and signed the deal.
Wow.
And that's how fast it happened.
And then what happened? You made records, right?
I mean, what happened was, what's that?
You made records, but then at some point you left the label. Was it?
Yep. I did.
Yeah.
I did. So if you think about the years that we're talking about, you're talking about 80, and this is talk about being put in a box, right? If you think about those years, Mike Bolton was releasing records and selling 7-8 million records every record he put out.
Right.
By the way, I love the art behind you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I painted that. That's which way does my finger go? This way. I painted that. That's
are you
Monique?
Serious?
Yeah. Look.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you. Yeah, I did that years ago. I got really into painting probably like maybe about 10 years ago. I got really into it and I started just doing it. And it was nice because I had just left the band and I just wanted to do something that like it wasn't going to be up for public consumption or public scrutiny. Like I just needed to have a creative outlet where like I didn't feel like I was going to have people go, it's not a hit. Like I couldn't do it. So I went and always needing a creative outlet, I just started painting and I have a ton of them. And for some reason, and I think it was probably out of loneliness, I painted a lot of heads and people and like, you know, and I surrounded myself with all of these people in my apartment in New York City at the time. But so that's one of my favorite ones for sure. Monique.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Can you gonna sell one to me?
Maybe someday. Right now, what I would love to do is actually make prints of her, like nice prints, and sell those.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious, like just sort of, because people start getting a little bit, they get lost, I think, when I start talking about when I was signed and all of those things, and then like there are a lot of people in my life who really don't understand why I walked away. Like they don't get it. And I know that there are certain people in my life who honestly will never forgive me for it. And it isn't even so much because they don't think but it's not even so much that they don't think I'm doing well. It's the fact that the way that it affected them when I was quasi-famous or whatever those things are, or could get access to tickets, or you could be on the guest list, or you could meet your heroes, or you could come to a really dope show, or you could tell people that your sister or your friend or your whatever brother or your cousin is, right? Like those things.
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
Right. And so anyway, so you walked away, didn't you? Or like, how did that go down?
So I had, it was a very, this is such a cliche term, but it was a long, arduous journey. I cut 30 tracks for that record, 30 tracks for that record. And they spent almost $1 million on that record. And, I wasn't really thinking about the word recoup at all. I was just like, sure, let's go do another one. Like, sure, let's go do another one. And literally they almost spent $1 million on that record. Wow. The record came out. I had a huge hit song off the record. It was a top 10 record. It was a moment that I'll never forget. It was amazing, but at the same time, was literally sucking the fucking life out of me, and I didn't understand why at the time. But I didn't realize that. That record was like literally eating my artistic integrity. I didn't know what that meant.
Not only the record does it, but then you're also, listen, I believe this. There are some of us who are artists and who are able to, for whatever reason, adapt to the atmosphere of what that is, right? From soup to nuts. And then there are artists who literally will either self-destruct in front of all of our eyes or get out of it. And it's I
almost did both.
I know. And me too. I got news for you. Me too. Not in the same way, but in a different way. And I was very sick in a lot of ways. And I needed to not be there. And that's it. Like, I just am too sensitive for that fucking business. Like, I just don't. Like, I can't do it. It's my music is too precious.
Halfway through that, I'll give you the abridged version because I know that I'm a little verbose. I sort of...
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just like sort of... I want to kind of always go down little side roads and valleys on these conversations because I feel like it's these interesting places, right? Where you go, okay, so this happened and we can top line it, but it's like, why do these things happen? And like, there are a lot of musicians who listen to this, and between the podcast version and between the YouTube, and then I do it live on Facebook and that gets passed around. So it's like, what I'm noticing is I'm getting a lot of feedback about the musicians that are listening to this and like how it can be really bewildering, I think, right now to be a real artist and be trying to make music right now if you're younger and don't understand that the business isn't the business that you think maybe it was or you want it to be, or there has to be different. It's one thing if you just want to be like an internet star, that's easy. But I'm saying for kids who are really writing, or for guys who really sing and like really have something to say and like figuring out, and the rappers who want to kind of go down their own route, or the singer-songwriters who do, like, it's not, this business now is not necessarily catered toward earning a living anymore for the true artist. And it's hard. I think in our day, we could make radio money. You could get a big record deal, even if you just got one. You could get a big publishing deal, a nice advance.
Yeah.
That stuff doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
Not for guys like us.
No, definitely not. It's changed so much, and the whole, the business model right now. It's kind of funny. We've taken a step back to the 1950s. I think the record industry and artist relationship had actually gotten very, very good until, well, Steve Jobs ruined all of it.
I know.
And I will tell you why he ruined it, because he introduced iTunes to the world.
Yep.
And that's where the streaming came along. And we are now literally back to the Morris Levy days of the 1950s, where artists were given a fucking nickel for all of their publishing, and somebody got rich. You know what I mean? A guy like Little Richard, one of the greatest rock and rollers of all fucking time, is a guy that would die fucking broke. Because
right. Well, Smokey Robinson, right? Smokey Robinson was broke, and people had to come, and kind of to his aid and just say, listen, what's right is right. And I was going to say to you that on that point, not only is it that era of music in that way, but it's also that era of music. And now again, there are stables of writers. There's the Max Martin, and then his stable underneath him, and everybody goes to him for the song. And then there's another, and they're big ones, and they're publishers, and they have their own publishing houses now, and they're all, and it's cool. Listen, I'm not even trying to put it down. What I'm saying is that sort of singer-songwriter time, even that Joni Mitchell sort of, Bob Dylan, what's his name? I'm closing time, and I'm Tom Waits, and right. So that, Paul Simon, I just don't know that stuff when Paul's, and Prince, how Prince wrote, for everybody. And you have your Bruno Mars, I think he's might be an example of that, but so it's not to say that there is no good kind of lane. There is. It's just incredibly niche, and it's very tailored to a very specific thing. And that sort
very
of
narrow.
That individuality of music is sort of the appreciation of variety, I think, is missing. And it's you have your country Barbie, and you have your pop star Barbie, and you have your R&B Barbie, and your rap Barbie, and your, Ken, soul singer, and your Ken boy band, and your Ken. And it's just this very kind of
homogenous,
and I'm not even upset about it. I'll tell you the truth. It's almost like when I was so in love with it and pursuing it, it didn't even matter if there was no genre for me. I was just going to do it because I had so much to say. But I'm in a place now where I just I almost just feel like I want to express myself in different ways because I did that and it was so amazing. But why throw songs into the abyss right now? I don't know.
Right.
Does that make sense? Does that sound so morbid? I don't mean it to sound morbid. I really don't. Because I'm just saying.
No, it's
a weird time.
I go through those. And Cassidy, the other thing too is that you, as well as myself and everybody else in the world, in this country right now, we have a lot of free time to do a lot of sort of soul searching.
Oh God, yeah.
And so, a part of your thing right now could very well be coming from the fact that you've got a lot of time on your hands to think about this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's almost too much. Yeah, you would think that I would use this time to write all the songs, but the truth is it's almost too much time to write songs, that I'm overwhelmed by it. There's a sense of urgency that I need that I don't have right now that's keeping me from feeling creative, Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I'm totally with you on so. But to my point, let me just go back to what I was saying about how the music industry, I think, has taken this giant step back to the 50s, where artists were being ripped off. So I started this project a year and a half ago. I was completely inspired by I may have told you this. I think I might have. that documentary that was on Netflix. It was like the history of the Eagles.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I was so incredibly inspired by this documentary and realizing like how much those guys actually meant to me and what kind of influence they had on me. So I decided to do this project. I started writing these songs, and I titled the whole project, If I Were an Eagle. So in other words, songs that I would have written or performed or recorded if I had been one of the Eagles.
Oh my God.
So
I have to hear this.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I have to hear this. Yeah.
So I got three songs down, 3 songs finished, and I the days like doing an album are done, really. I mean, people, why would you even put out a compilation people are just buying singles anyway. That's all they do. It's all they listen to. And they're not even buying them. Everyone's streaming them. And here's my point. Okay. So I put out, in a 3-month period, I put a new single out once a month.
Good.
For 3 months. And that was about 1.5 years ago. And here's the reason why I stopped. Honest to God, this is the reason why I stopped. After the first quarter, well, actually, pardon me, after the second quarter, because I released mid-quarter and then waited for another full quarter to see what the streaming was going to bring to me.
Yeah.
And those three songs in a quarter and a half. So what is that? 4.5 months. In that amount of time, did about 65,000 streams. Right?
Wow, that's good.
Yeah. You know how much my check was for?
$10.
$14.
Yeah.
Welcome. So, yeah. So, point is, if I had put those songs up for sale for download only,
right?
Not that I'm saying 65,000 people would have purchased it. That's not what I'm saying. But let's just say of those 65,000 streams, maybe it's 10,000 people that listened to that song 65,000. So I would have had $10,000.
Yeah, but here's what happens.
Instead, I got a check for 14.
Right, and here's what happens. No, you can try that, and this is what I did. I tried to say, I'm not going to stream. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make them for sale for $1, or for the album is $9, whatever. Download, and that's how it's going to be available. And it just doesn't work. Like they don't buy them. It's just crazy. They don't buy them. And unless, and then you slip from the visibility on a level that's just like, if you're not going to make music, then fine. But if you're going to make music, you have to be on Spotify. You have to be on. So this time with this record, I put it on Spotify, but the truth is like, it just sounds so complacent of me, but in a way, I just sort of feel like it's such a drag to put music out anymore that it's like, I don't get off on it. And the other thing, I still love music though. Like I still listen to it. I still think it's great. I love hearing, like I said, Shelby Lynn had a song out that I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So of course I'm appreciative when artists do it, but I almost feel like you have to have already been at a certain level of visibility pre-Napster in order to have survived it. And we weren't.
You bet.
Unfortunately, we were post Napster, nope. And because we were post Napster, our whole prospects for earning our living just doing music, they just disappeared really on a level that's like, I had a huge song on a huge record, and like, trust me, I barely bought a car with it, man. Like, I'm not even trying to like front.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so stupid. Like, it was fine. It's good. Thank God. That was amazing. Awesome. I'm just trying to say, like, in the day, you could have had a little security with a song like that on a record like that.
Well, yeah, you could have bought a house.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like now it's not even almost that. It's not even almost that. No. And you don't live more than maybe 2 years on it. Classic example
that you may know. I don't know if we've ever had this conversation, but a friend of mine, he lucked out, and it happened for him right prior to the whole streaming thing. So he made record money.
No, I have friends like
and it
that.
changed his life forever.
I have friends like that.
You know Angie? Do you know Angie?
Of course. I was supposed to do shows with him, but they got canceled because of the COVID.
All right. So Angie's a good friend of mine. You know the Hero Cry, right? You know that the Faith Hill tune, that's Angie's song.
Well, that was
that he'll never.
But that was pre.
That was right. Yes, it was right at the cusp. So he made real record money.
Yeah.
He made record money. Like
the problem
sales of records
is that we were just coming up at that point. So it was like we were in it enough to get a decent sized record deal and a decent sized publishing deal. Yes. But we were, meaning you and I, our time period, but we weren't in it long enough to have any real residual money or to have any kind of like real mailbox money that's going to be like life lasting. And it's a shame because I know a lot of artists like that too, because we were coming up with those artists. They were a little bit ahead of us. But like certain people, like, perfect example is Matchbox 20. Like, I wonder what his career would be like had he been post Napster.
Yeah.
Right. But he's pre and it's a completely different kind of financial success. Right. And it's like, the thing is like, I just want to be perfectly clear. I'm not begrudging anybody any kind of financial success. I'm more just maybe for musicians who are listening, because I know there's a lot of confusion with, I was getting into this because I thought there was money in it. And I'm trying to explain to some of like my younger ones around me, I love you guys and you should keep doing it because you're talented. But I'm telling you, it's not the money you think. And if you're only in it for the money, I have to let you know that you're really... You might want to rethink that right now because there really isn't that kind of money anymore.
You better love what you do.
You got to love it so much. You got to be willing to be broke for it. Yeah.
Listen, man, I've been very wealthy and very broke many times over this crazy career.
Join the club. Join the club. Yeah. That's what we did. We chose this.
We
chose it.
Yeah,
we chose it.
I still did.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I still do it for two reasons. I do it because I love to do it. I love connecting with someone in an audience. I love that someone can come up to me and say like, "Oh my God, that one song of yours got me through the worst time of my life," and like whatever. And I do it for that. And the other reason that I do it is it's the only thing I know how to do.
Well, you just said my two reasons. There they are. Like, so here's the thing. I do it because I had to make a decision what it was really about for me. And what it's actually about for me is the connection that I make with other people. Because I, as most humans are, whether they realize it or not, my journey here is about connecting with others. And some of us struggle more to do that in their everyday lives. So the music was the way that I did that. Like, it was the way that I could connect. I was losing that on this other level of sort of corporatism and like, enterprise of it all, and there's nothing wrong with earning your living. I lost myself in there and I don't know. It's like, I'm more mature now. Could I be okay in that atmosphere now? Possibly, because I'm older. I have myself more in hand. I'm more aware of who I am. At the time I was a kid, I was so easily influenced. I believe what everybody told me. I was totally paranoid. We were in a complete boys club in the kind of music we were doing. And I felt like a commodity and I never felt like one. And I never knew how to play that role. And I was not surrounded by the most supportive people, truth be told. So it was just like this trial by fire.
I know.
And not with allies. And it was by the end of that, I was physically sick, but what I love is you keep playing, and that's what it's about. You take it back to the audience, you take it back to the connection, to the people, the thing that made you want to do it to begin with. Right.
Right. Listen, I would be, I would be very upset if I actually didn't say something to you, during this interview that I want all of your fans to know. I've gone on record many, many times, but I've never gone on record with you present.
Huh.
So this is a big statement that I'm going to
Okay.
make. It is a big statement that I'm going to make. And I want everyone that loves you, I want everyone to understand that I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You are literally my favorite female singer ever.
Oh my God.
Ever. Okay? There is no one that is above you for me. And I will tell you also, and you know how close to my heart Long Shot is. It's one of the greatest songs that's ever, ever, ever been written. And I want all of your fans to understand the type of respect that I have for you. I saw you for the first time at an open mic, and I fell in love with you. It's the true story, right? You know where it was. You exactly where it was.
I do, actually. I do remember that.
Truth, and I have loved you from day one, and I continue to, and I spread the word about you to everyone all the time, because you are
appreciate it.
You're just the best.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your check is in the mail, by the way. Thank you so much.
Shut up.
That's very kind and very sweet. And I have to say that I am better able to receive that kind of love from people now about all of it, because it was such a traumatizing time that somehow I conflated like the trauma with the music, and they don't belong together, those two things, right? Like, and the music I was making, and so I started to have a very odd relationship. The music became very important still, and I was still writing like crazy and still doing it, but I became very kind of private about it in a weird way. Like I didn't want it to go out into the world and like get hurt. Like I felt like it would get bruised or something, you know? So, and the old music I couldn't embrace. And it's so stupid now I think about it, because that stuff was so important to me. And it was like the most amazing time in my life when I wrote those songs. And it was who I was at that time. And it links me to my past. And I feel like you can't just pretend like it doesn't exist. And I'm so in love with it now. I still can be really honest about the fact that it was traumatizing in a lot of ways, but that does not change the legacy of the music and the songs. And, and when I go back now and I listen to that girl that you talk about, like I'm proud of her now. And I just feel like she did the best she could, and she was flawed, but like earnest, you know what I mean? And like never ever malicious in terms of like wanting to hurt anyone, just wanting to do music and being lost as fuck, and like having no idea like how to navigate these like shark infested waters whatsoever, and like kind of being feral, if I'm being totally honest, like mildly feral, and like just so like there I was.
I gotta tell you one of my fondest memories. It might have been the second time that we met in the same place, which that club I happened to live directly across the street.
That's right.
And
that's right.
After the bar closed, we went and hung out at my apartment.
Yes.
And just shot the shit about the music business.
Yes.
Until 5:00 in the fucking morning. I don't know what it was, but that's one of my fond memories of a music hang. You know, it was just we just sat there and just bullshitted all night, man. And I think we traded off songs. Played like little things here. It was just incredible.
I remember that. And I think you have people, and I've been saying this, it's like you have people that cross your path, you know, on the journey. And it's like there's just people that you stay close to somehow, even if it's sort of loosely, you come back together. And then there's people who kind of end up in the wind, and being aware of that stuff and being super grateful for it, because these relationships and these moments, you know, they don't only like dot the path of your life, but they dot the path of your career. And I think that I lost some romance for that part of my life. And it's like baby with the bathwater kind of thing, you know? But I think now it's so interesting because I have such a different relationship with it. Like, I just feel like I love doing music. There's a lot of things that I love to do. I will figure out a way to kind of do it in the way that makes me comfortable, I guess is the way that you could put it. And kind of, you know, like what you're doing, it's like, I love just getting into a room with my guitar and just playing for people. I love the intimacy of that, you know? And so, and you're still playing, right? Regularly.
I mean,
right?
Right now, right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, when there's not a plague, are you outside? Are you outside with playing songs when it's not the end of the world? When it's not Armageddon?
I mean, look. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I'm out. Yeah, I'm out 5 days a week. You know, if not more in the summer.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not. You know, so I'm a cover guy now. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. So people in New Jersey and New York and
cover guy,
the surrounding area want to hear. I'm a cover guy, but you know what? They pay me for it, and I get to play my guitar, sing songs for 3 or 4 hours, and then I get to come home and I get to make a living doing that.
That's what I was going to say. It's like,
which is great.
I don't know, is somebody judging? Like, I do feel like people like to judge it, but I also think until you know what it's like to really make your living only doing music, you know, like for like 20 years or more, I think that people should then come talk to me after 20 years of doing it without having to do anything else. You know what I mean? Like, you have to do everything, you know? And I'm so funny though, dude. I have to tell you this really funny story. So Mark is my boyfriend. He got me to join like a band that does covers. I'm not getting into anything else about it. I'm just telling you that like he somehow talked me into this shit and I didn't do it. Just let's start the conversation with I didn't do it in the end. Okay. But I will tell you something, man. I didn't do it because I found it to be one of the most intimidating things ever. Like having to sing.
It ain't easy.
Come on, man. I give you a lot of credit. I was tripping. The songs were not easy to learn. The voices were much higher or better or stronger than I ever thought they were. Like I love to write everybody off. You know, I was like shocked at like, you know, to be on with a live band again and how loud it was and like having to push so hard. And I was like, honey, I've gotten soft. I fear. I have gotten
You're millennial.
I was like, I just like my little guitar now. Like now I'm just feeling like I got used to that after that was such a big thing to make that transition. But you and I played a really fun show together in Morristown.
Oh, it was great.
That was so fun. Yeah. That was kind of how we reconnected.
Right.
Would you be interested in playing a song? Right now?
I mean, I think I could. Would you like me to?
Yeah.
What do you want me to play?
I don't know. Just play something that you feel like is that the people watching will like.
Okay.
I don't care. I've got no preference.
All right.
I forget what that cover song was that you did. Do you remember the one that I made you sing again for me?
The Hall & Oates tune?
Was it the Hall & Oates tune?
Yeah. Well, it's a Hall & Oates tune that people don't realize is a Hall & Oates tune. Paul Young made the song famous. It's a Hall & Oates tune.
Do you want to do that one?
Can you hear this, by the way?
Huh? Yep.
We can solve any problem.
Yes.
Why do we lose so many tears?
Woo!
Say you go again when the leading man appears. It's always the same. Can't you see? We got everything going on, and don't you know? Every time you go away, you take a piece of me. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me. The one you're too close to see. I can feel you by. It doesn't mean too much to me. Yeah. You can't go on in the same thing. Can you see we got everything along and don't you know? Every time you go away, you take a piece of me. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me. You can't go on thinking the same thing. Can't you see we got everything going on? Don't you know? Every time you go away, you take a piece of me. Yeah. Every time you go away, every time you go, every time you go away, you take a piece of me.
Oh,
Here you go.
that was amazing.
Thank
You sound so great.
you.
You know what I think?
Oh, thanks.
We might have to have you record that into your phone. Do you have an iPhone? Can you just
got an Android phone.
Can you just do a recording, like a voice note of you just doing it with just a straight through, just the way you just did it? We may have to plug that in there.
Oh, sure.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because the audio sometimes on the internet is choppy. It might be okay. It might have just been on my end, but I want everybody to hear every note of that because that was so sick.
Yeah, I mean, I could do that for you, but I mean, you know, this is the day and age that we live in, and we're as we were saying, we're learning.
I know.
So
I also
fuck it, flaws and all, man.
No, it was so great. I just don't want anybody to miss any of it. It was so beautiful. But yeah, no, I appreciate you being on. I'm so glad to see that you're doing well, and I'm glad that we got a chance to, connect. I'm going to be doing this in studio eventually when we're all unleashed and unchained, but we can be in public and we can have a studio.
Yeah.
And it's in Secaucus. So maybe you can come and do like a live performance in there sometime.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something. I am so, honestly, all bias aside, I am so impressed with you as an interviewer / personality.
Wow.
If you were to decide, if you were to decide that this is going to be, and for me, my hope would be that it would always be something secondary to the music and to the voice, but it's your choice. You do what you want. But if you were to decide to go this as a second or even a first type of career move, I think that you would be extremely successful because you're really, really good at this.
Oh my God. You have no idea.
God's honest truth. I swear to you.
That makes me thank you. I'm actually like genuine. I have like goosebumps. I got to tell you, I love this so much. And it's one of those things that like, you don't know if people are going to like it or not like it or whatever. I just want to talk to people, but I enjoy it and I am having so much fun. And I haven't felt this way about anything in a really long time. I feel more comfortable doing this than I have doing anything in a very long time. So that makes me really excited. And we're going to be in a studio and we're going to try to get it up and running. And it's a interesting thing. It'll evolve and it'll grow. There'll be live performances, but there'll also be hopefully really interesting guests starting to come in once people catch wind. I think people start to hear that you have a podcast and they like do the eye roll and they're like, I don't want to be on it. It's probably like stupid. And that's fine, but it's really not stupid. I actually take it very seriously. And we've been getting a lot of views. There are a lot of people watching it and like loving it. And it's not about me. It's about the people that come on like yourself. And every single person who's been coming on has just been really interesting. And I think, and fun to talk to and open. And I think people want that. And I think people are interested in different viewpoints from different types of people. And so I'm loving it so much. Yeah.
Well, you should. I mean, you can tell that you're really enjoying it. And the thing that's great is that you're engaged. Look, there's two type of interviewers in this world. And as somebody that's now you're moving into this sort of this area or aspect of your career, there are two types of interviewer. Okay, there is Conan O'Brien, and then there is Howard Stern.
Right.
Conan O'Brien makes an interview. I'm going to throw the guy under the bus because I can't stand watching him. Conan O'Brien interviews somebody, and he's the most important person in the room.
Right.
And Howard Stern always makes himself secondary to. Howard Stern is probably the single greatest interviewer on the planet.
Without a doubt. I mean, the fact that you even brought him up, because I completely agree. I think Howard has a way of putting people at ease that I really, really, really love. Yeah.
He's fantastic. You know, it's really funny. I an hour ago said to you, wow, that's really interesting that you've made this move into broadcast the way that you have. And you needed an outlet, and it happens to be painting, which is exactly what Howard Stern did. And you almost said verbatim what he said about his paintings. His fans have been going crazy. Like, Howard, let us see your work. He's like, nah, it's just for me. I don't think that I really want it to be judged.
That's so interesting. I did not know that, because I'm not I'm a fan, but I am not one of the people that listens to everything he does. So there are things that like people tell me about him that I had to go find the Hillary Clinton interview, right? Because I heard that it was amazing and I hadn't seen it. So I cherry picked like that with him, but that's fascinating. I didn't even know he was painting. I know Jim Carrey is painting, and he is blowing my mind with his painting. But I should check out Howard's too.
His stuff is off the hook.
Wow.
Yeah, you should. I don't know whether or not you can actually find his painting anywhere because he's kept it so private.
That's interesting. Good for him.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You know, and think about that too. I mean, not that the guy needs the money, but he could sell those pieces for millions.
There's so many times I could have sold things that I haven't sold. You know, you just don't. And it's like, I've been very lucky. And I haven't had to, you know, because I've been offered money for Monique, the one behind me, quite often actually. And over the years, like I've had her for about 10 years, and I put her up now and then just so people can see her because I love her so much. I have other ones, like I said, and I'm probably doing more. Mark has been really pushing me to do it. We have an extra room in the back, and he keeps saying like, let's get an easel in here. He wants to see me do it again too. I just loved it. It was like a very interesting thing that I don't know really how I know how to do. I guess that was the same with the music though, because it's not like the music really came from any pedigree. Like I'm a mongrel, but but then I knew how to do music. Like it just is what it is. But like same thing with the painting. The painting was just sort of, but I need to always express myself, but I don't necessarily need the attention that I used to need. It's weird. So it's like, I want to talk and I want to explore and I want to learn about people, but I don't necessarily always have to be the focal point anymore like I used to. And so this is a beautiful opportunity because I get to do this thing. I get to be stimulated intellectually. I also really believe, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but I've been saying this lately, that like in the 60s and in the 70s and even like somewhat when we were coming up, like in the 90s in particular, we really looked to our rock stars to be led. You know, we looked to them for their messages, and we wanted to sort of, you know, we looked to them for even sometimes our political views and our worldview. And it's like, people don't really do that as much anymore, right? Where they go is they go to podcasts. They go to podcasts for, I think the intellectuals now go to podcasts. They don't go to music like they once did. And I think that has been hard for me too, because I musically am not going to pander. And so I have to kind of go where the intellectuals are. And if they're here, then let's talk, because I'm like feeling so lost in the music business at the moment. Like I look around and I feel like I don't recognize anything or anyone, and I know it sounds dark. I swear I don't mean it to. I really just I've had a little bit of a revelation. About where my future lies,
Right. Right. We go, it lies on the other brick road.
Totally.
We go through, this business is tough. This life is tough. I'm not even going to say this business. This life is hard. It is hard. And we go through stages, and listen, like honestly, kids that are listening to this, I can say that now because I'm fucking old fucker, but,
no,
but kids that are listening to this, man, I mean, this is not an easy life. You can see it in my face. This is not an easy life.
No, I know.
It's difficult. I mean, it really is. And you really need to love what you do, and you really need to accept. I think going into it, if you accept that you're going to have a difficult life and you're probably not going to make a lot of money, and that still is appealing to you, then go for it.
Right, because here what happened.
Ever.
No, but here's the thing: you can create anything you want, and if you want to put your focus on being able to make a lot of money, there are opportunities out there for everybody to do that. And it would be a lie to say that there aren't. You can make your living. You can do great, right? You can do this at any level. There's all different levels to do it at. I just think you and I, for whatever reason, for better or for worse, had a kind of response to the industry that like some of us have, and some of us just don't, for whatever reason, we can't function there. And there are a lot of people who are in the industry who are trying to function and end up, and we said this earlier, you end up killing yourself in some way, whether it's through drugs or destructive behavior. We are sensitive creatures as artists, and it's a very, very tough, you have to be very thick skinned, and some of us just aren't. And I don't feel like anybody needs to apologize for that. You can still be, and I think the lesson in all of it, I don't know about for you, but for me has been, I can be an artist and I can be creative and I can be fully realized at any stage or at any level of this business, and that there is no best level to be at or worst level to be at. It's not about that. It's about your comfort level and where you do your best work and where you feel like you can sustain and where you feel safe. Like that's it, and that may fluctuate and change as you go. You make those decisions as you go. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to, just like you were saying, you had friends who were in your band and then eventually they became hobbyists, not as an insult, but they put it in a place in their life where it made sense for them, where it wasn't something that they felt stressed out about. It was something that they still enjoyed and could do. It's like sometimes, unfortunately, making music or art your career can turn it into a little bit of a love-hate, because now it's something that you're desperate to make money for you, and you lose your romance with it, the art versus commerce kind of end of all of it,
It always comes back. She's an evil bitch, I tell you.
She's an unfaithful lover. That's what I always say. She's an unfaithful lover, that one. She'll break your heart.
We always go back.
She'll break your heart. I'm like, but I'm faithful. I am so faithful, but boy, that bitch cheats on me all the time. I know. No, that's what it's like.
I love you though. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. So whatever.
I love you. I love you. Darling, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
So fun. Thank you for being a part of it.
Very, very well. Can I do one thing?
Yeah.
You're very welcome. Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Your boyfriend is the guy that's been in the video with you?
Yes.
Mark, his name is?
Mark, yeah.
Mark, you're a monster, dude. That guy can play.
I know, dude. He's so fucking killing. He's so good. He went to Berkeley. He's so
No
good,
wonder
and
why. But tell him I said that.
and he
please.
plays everything. He plays everything. Bass is his main instrument. He plays piano, guitar. He plays trumpet. He plays drums. He's like genius. Yeah, I will tell him. Thank you for that.
Tell him I said so, please. So
I will.
All right.
I
Love
will.
you.
Love you. I'll talk to you hopefully soon. We'll see you again. Bye.
All right. Be well. Bye.
You too. Bye.